If you enjoy our work, consider making a donation to mixtapestories.net or at Patreon/mixtapestories, all one word. Thank you. Mixtape Stories, creating beautiful fiction in a disappointing timeline.
Lewis, this is their world now. If you go to her, they will find you.
Lewis couldn't believe that Kendra, of all people, would tell him not to see the Reverend. She was more hardcore Gaian than almost anyone, but he saw the terrorized look on her. And the words, "This is their world." Her words struck Lewis to the core. After a moment, she let go of his wrist. They took a seat.
When she emerged from the flu, the Reverend didn't keep a low profile. She went full-on Gaia at the church. Can you imagine it? Talking about our faith to these people who never experienced what we did? The Unitarians were okay with the Gaia stuff, but then she brings an AK-47 to church one Sunday morning, hefts it in her hand during the sermon, to a bunch of liberal Unitarians, mind you, and proceeds to tell her parishioners that they gotta defend themselves from the minions of the void that seek domination.
Did Unitarian Council remove her?
No. Dora came to accept that her more proactive approach to facing evil was incompatible with the Unitarian Church's more pacifistic philosophy. She resigned and started the Gaia Conscious community. She basically sent a flare to the Regent, every Lamb of God, and sheepdog that she was isekai. She's a liability now.
How can you say that? She's the one who picked you kids up from the road. She's the one who led you, me, and a million others to Gaia. She's the one who knew the cause of the shift back when I was thinking it was the North Koreans. She was our leader for Gaia's sake.
And now she's on the no-fly list. The reconstituted FBI has agents working with the sheepdogs, conducting surveillance on anything she touches. She's a joke in the incel circles, and she's a fucking paint bomb to any one of us who dare approaches her. If it wasn't for Ross, I'd been marked too. Fortunately, he found me first and warned me to not make contact.
Lewis wanted to tell Kendra not to be such a coward. But that wasn't fair. She was no coward. She gave her life to overthrow a tyrant. She was just now stuck in a no-win scenario. And so was he. Everything they fought for. Everything they died for. All of that. And they found themselves in this hell where they couldn't tell anyone what they did, lest they be outed as isekai for the Orange Pact in a world ruled by the home of the faithful. When Lewis got back to his apartment in Crystal City, he looked up the Gaia Conscious community, which pulled up a ton of results. The oldest results were from local news archives about a former Unitarian Reverend calling on her parishioners to take ownership of the Second Amendment and defend their freedom from an increasingly tyrannical federal government. There was another article from the ACLU decrying the violation of the Gaia Conscious community's First Amendment rights from government intimidation through its constant surveillance of Reverend Luevino and her followers. There were pieces from One America news channel charging that the Gaia Conscious community was a cult grooming vulnerable college kids. There were several videos of Dora's sermons, most posted by critics who added commentary. Lewis pulled up the most recent video from last Sunday's sermon. In it, Dora stood in front of the flag of Greater Monticello.
I instructed you. I told you what to expect. The path of awakening frightens not only those of dim consciousness, but within ourselves. We are tempted to raise our hands in surrender. But I can tell you a story of the most unlikely community of people thrown together by tragedy who found meaning. They found purpose. They found community. You may be afraid as the henchmen outside our doors seek your submission, but I know of a people
Lewis
who
heard
faced
the words as
impossible
if they
odds
were
and
whispered
overcame
from
evil
Gaia
in the
herself,
darkest hours.
and they came from
Gaia
Dora,
will not
his
fail.
Reverend. She was alive. Something then occurred to him. Her sermon was no different from what he heard back home, but the same words, the same passion, struck him differently here. He hadn't heard Gaia's voice since emerging here. Now his own leader's sermon felt jarring. What was happening to him? Was he succumbing to the soulless void of this reality?
Hello?
Hey Clint, it's Lewis. We met a few weeks ago.
Yes, Lewis. Really glad you called. How are you holding up?
I don't know, man.
After watching her sermons and reading some of the hate-filled comments posted, Lewis was about to drive straight back to Charlottesville and knock on the Gaia-conscious community door. Who cared if the Regent learned that he was isekai? Dora was being attacked by the government and eviscerated online. But Kendra pleaded with him not to burn himself. She said that Ross was working to counter the Home of the Faithful and their takeover of the country. But of course, they were just fooling themselves. The Regent won in this world. Even his own sister was enthralled by this man. He certainly couldn't talk to her. He was about to head over to the Gaia conscious community, but before doing so, he decided to call someone else who understood loss.
It's hitting me hard, Clint.
It was your wife and children you lost. Your entire world.
Lewis had told Clint that he lost his family to a drunk driver, a lie he had made up on the spot. But in some ways, it was worse. His wife never met him. Their children didn't even exist. Indeed, he did lose his entire world.
I wake up, and for a brief moment, it's normal. I forget where I am, and then it hits me. That world. It's gone. It's never coming back.
It's fucking cruel, isn't it?
How do you overcome it, the loss of your daughter?
I haven't, Lewis. I just incorporated into my life. And I have Olivia and Meredith.
I remember you telling me about your wife, how she's avoided processing it. Have you talked to her about it?
More times than I count. I don't know, Lewis. I think all I do is remind her of what she lost. Maybe I should just...
Clint didn't finish his sentence. Lewis groaned inwardly. He couldn't believe what he was about to say.
You need to fight
Or
her, Clint. Don't let her fall into her job. She'll regret it, and so will you if you let her go. But you're going to have to not give up on her. You need to be persistent because she's worth it.
You're right. She's definitely worth fighting for.
I know.
when he got off the phone, he powered up the burner he purchased and called the number that Robert left for him. After telling the person answering that he was Kona, he hung up. A few minutes later, the burner rang, and Lewis picked up.
I heard you ran into an old friend today.
Never mind that. I'm in on your little resistance cell on one condition. I need to speak to Dora.
I know you've been told already. She's a trap.
She's my commander-in-chief, and I don't answer to you. If you want my cooperation, you'll set up a meeting.
It's a risk for me, you know.
You're a smart man. You'll figure it out.
Lewis had ridden on Skyline Drive both in times of war and in peace. Shenandoah National Park had few vehicles on the road when the shift hit that fateful Tuesday summer morning, so it was relatively easy to run an entire regiment through the mountainous pass on bikes and horses. They were even able to drive some of the old diesel vehicles and the newly crafted steam-powered tanks through. Today was a weekday. Hardly any vehicles were out. Lewis didn't quite know if that was a good thing. The designated meetup was several miles from where he parked. It not only ensured that there would be no direct connection to each other if the sheepdogs were using drones, it also allowed Lewis to cycle on his bike and continue with rehabilitating his flabby native's body back to the condition he remembered. It was tough given all the highly processed food in this world. Lewis pulled up to the parking lot of a picnic stop and walked down a trail. Past the first two spots was a picnic table where blue tape was wrapped around one of the concrete legs. He forgot what silence was like since arriving. The only annoying thing about it was that it reminded him that he had tinnitus. He picked up a vehicle's engine. It was one of those electric models with a whir instead of a rumble. After a door shut, he started to hear rustling, and from the turnabout, Reverend Dora Luevano emerged. Lewis touched his heart, and she did the same. She ran up to him and nearly tackled him.
Look at you, Gaia's beating heart.
Lewis held on to his Reverend, his commander, this tiny woman with Coke bottle glasses.
I thought you were dead here too. I didn't even think.
I know. I assumed you were living your life in our world. What happened? I was told we won and you were in charge of the rehabilitation of Lynchburg. Did they assassinate you?
No. The rehab went smoother than we planned. Most citizens were glad to return to sane Christianity again.
Dora gestured for them to sit.
There's so much I want to say, Reverend. You were greatly missed. I mean, Juan's a fine president and all, but he's not even a Gaian.
I didn't want a theocracy, Lewis. That's why I selected a Christian to be my deputy.
I know. It's just...
Lewis felt himself losing his composure. Dora patted his shoulder and he broke down. This 6-foot-tall former Marine, former vicious rabbit commander.
It's all wrong, Dora. This place, my wife is married to someone else, my children don't even exist. I haven't heard Gaia's voice since arriving. The HOFs, they control the government and you. I can't even come to worship.
I know. I fucked it up good, Lewis, let me tell you. I emerged in the hospital from that super flu and failed to analyze the situation. I learned of the Regent's, or should I say, Pastor Dan's litter rap and the bizarre misinformation machine of social media and the algorithms that directed it, and I went all aggro.
How could you not? They won. They won it all, Reverend. Everything we fought for. And look at us. We're in hiding. This world is theirs.
Dora gave a sly grin, which he caught.
What? What is it?
The Regent and his followers. They all think that too. That they won and that it's over. Oh, my dear General, what is it I told you before Culpepper?
Nobody expects the militant Unitarians.
The militia believed they owned the post-shift world, and we were just a bunch of hippies. Their belief in their own propaganda, along with Gaia's guidance, was what led them to become recycled into the earth.
So, there is an actual resistance.
Dora gave a plaintive smile.
Right now, the Regent's leveraging his tech bros to monitor all online communications, everyone's credit card purchases. They're developing AI that can run circles around what our intel services could provide. He and his regime have thrown in with this amazing technology.
She took off her glasses and cleaned them off.
Meanwhile, our network has been communicating on shortwave radio by Pickup Truck Express, even pigeons.
Lewis knitted his brows.
We have a network?
Robert didn't tell you? Oh my Gaia! No wonder why you feel so despondent. Lewis, what we have is not some scattering of allied isekais struggling to stay under the radar in Virginia. We are a nation of isekai and natives alike, from the Orange Pact, from the Free State of Vermont, from communities in Texas and California, Tamaulipas, Quebec. We are in communication with our isekai friends overseas. We are not a community limited to the Blue Ridge Mountains. We are everywhere. And we are networked in a way no algorithm or AI can track because we are analog.
He recalled all the vacuum tubes and the hand-crank radios being created and sold as art.
The Blue Ridge Artisans Forge.
Not just there. We have artisans everywhere. And that's what the radios and steam engines are listed as according to any credit card company, though most pay in cash. It's just art, albeit functional art.
So you're going old school in order to communicate without being monitored. That's great. But I gotta be honest, burner phones are just as effective, Rev. And you don't have to worry about curious hobbyists coming across your communications.
Burners can't broadcast. Besides, I've learned not to trust the technology.
So, what's Robert's plan? Or is it yours? Call on a general strike?
It's not our plan. It's Gaia's.
Lewis grimaced.
Reverend, I'm sorry, but I've been unable to hear her since my arrival.
Dora took his hand.
Close your eyes. Listen to the sound of my voice, the pulse of your temple, the ringing in your ears. Focus on the ringing.
Actually, Reverend, I tried to ignore it.
Shh. Listen. Listen to the ringing. Let go of the pain, the annoyance, and let the ringing in.
Lewis allowed himself to hear the ringing without trying to filter it out. The high pitch always annoyed him. It even distressed him on some nights. He had to sleep with a fan on. And then, within the ringing, he heard something. It was faint. A voice. It was her, Gaia. Lewis struggled to make sense. Doris stayed silent and let him listen.
Repeat them.
5, 4, 8. And she says, new moon. What is that? Why is she calling numbers?
It's a countdown, General. Today, it's 548. 548 days.
A countdown? To what?
Dora gave him a knowing look, and then he realized what it was.
The shift. It's coming here.
Lewis stood up and ran his hands through his head.
And all the art pieces, the functional art, it's in preparation.
We've been preparing, quietly, across the globe, building the radios and steam engines, collecting seeds, teaching urbanites how to farm, what to store, how to operate in our world.
And the Regent.
He's been so invested in his native's approach to this world, building up social media, leveraging AI to serve his purposes, using drones and satellites.
But when the shift hits, all those powers he possesses right now, it will become absolutely useless.
Lewis wondered why the man would put all of his time and resources into a digital technology unless, And then he smiled.
The Regent. He doesn't know what's coming, does he?
You think he listens to Gaia's voice? He's too drunk on his own success and is perfectly content harassing me. And I'm happy to be the shiny object that he obsesses over, sending his agents, using the government to follow me and my parishioners and post nasty memes about the crazy gun-toting witch with her band of former Unitarians.
You're kinda internet famous. They call y'all Earth Day militia.
And while the Regent and the government he effectively controls focuses on my sermons, they fail to listen to what I'm saying because I am preparing the civilians out there. And when the shift hits, our friends across the globe crank their radios. The only voice speaking will be me, led by Gaia herself. We will be ready. We will know where all the non-perishable goods are while in transit. We will have the means to get to the food stores, the transportation to deliver and adequately distribute to the population. We will have the primitive generators to keep medication refrigerated.
Dora stood up, her eyes smoldering through the thick lenses.
Back when the shift hit us in our world, nobody was prepared. Billions died because there was no nation anywhere able to operate in that new reality. We survived by Gaia's grace. But this time, in this world, Gaia sent us here in order to save these people.
Lewis blanched.
Save these people? Why? Look what they did to this place. Evil won here because people allowed it to happen. Hell, they voted for it.
A lot did. Millions chose that path. But there are so many who were not part of this. So many good people who tried to stop the insanity, who watched helplessly as their world descended into this hell. And in a world where the Regents seem to have won for all time, they take cruel joy in hunting us down and dehumanizing us. But that victory is an illusion, Lewis. And when Gaia turns the tables and we are victorious, and we will be victorious, we have a choice. We can choose to hoard everything and become kings as our enemies would. We can choose to do to them as they would to us. And believe me, a big part of me would love nothing more than to be the instrument of vengeance. Or we can listen to Gaia and live according to who we want to be. We can fall into the void, or we can foster life. The choice is simple, Lewis. It's simple, just not easy.
He knew she was right. He hadn't realized how much he resented not only the success of the Home of the Faithful in this world, but the civilians here who made his rise possible. Dora took his hand.
The darkness seeks to consume us all, but we are on the precipice of an evolutionary shift. We will create a just and democratic world together when the oligarchs and tyrants are rendered powerless. But we need to prepare. And we need you, Lewis. Are you ready?
The flight to San Francisco was uneventful, though Lewis knew that this would be among the last flights he or anyone else would ever take in his lifetime. So he selected the window seat and took in the view as best he could. He also went ahead and paid for a business class upgrade. Whenever he flew on actual business these past 16 months for Archway Freight, they only paid for economy minus. He was just a logistics guy after all, not an executive. After picking up his rental and stopping by a fellow isekai's artisan forge for functional art, Lewis pulled up to the quaint craftsman home in San Mateo. The radio this forge crafted, though heavy, was designed to be portable and fit inside a hiking backpack. It was constructed according to the specs agreed upon by the members of Analog Anonymous, the international allied network of isekai and natives who had been preparing for the upcoming shift. They called it AA for short, which was intentional. After Reverend Luevano convinced Lewis to drop his plans for vengeance, and to work with Robert Claiborne, he was introduced to the underground steampunk nation of AA, the other one, and got a new job as a logistics specialist with Archway Freight. His position kept him abreast of every freight railcar in North America, what they contained, and where they would be when every device, every machine, and every vehicle that depended on a microcircuit suddenly cuts off for good the next month. He had spent weekends and holidays training up a new cadre of vicious rabbits, the vast majority of whom were natives. The Regent might be ponying Reverend Dora in memes and harassing her wherever she went, but she had created a movement. And the recruits Lewis trained didn't post their views or what they were doing online. First rule of Analog Anonymous. And despite being well trained on all kinds of firearms and explosives, they didn't adorn their vehicles with window stickers of AR-15s to show how badass they were. As Theodore Roosevelt famously said, real gangsters ain't gotta flex no nuts. Around the country, Lewis quietly trained civilians who became a corps that he would consider a halfway decent auxiliary force in his world. That would hopefully be enough to protect the appropriated freight in order to distribute the food to as many people as possible in that first critical year to come. Lewis lugged the radio onto his back, tightening the straps, and briefly pitied his former corporal who had to carry that thing on a mountain bike from Charlottesville to Lynchburg.
Hey, man.
Clint gave him a hug. Lewis had spoken with Clint occasionally since meeting with Dora, and visited him to get coffee whenever he was in the Bay Area. Clint led him into the living room, where Lewis caught a family photo of Clint with his wife Meredith and their children. It caught Lewis off guard.
Really glad you're in town today. Meredith and Olivia are out shopping for a dress for the senior prom. They should be back any minute. You haven't met them yet, have you?
Haven't had the pleasure.
Here, let me help you with that,
he said as he assisted Lewis to couple himself from the backpack.
Jesus, Lewis, what do you got in there, gold?
Something better.
Lewis debated how he would broach the subject with a native accountant who avoided the outdoors. He opened the backpack and pulled out the cumbersome contraption.
That's a steampunk radio, isn't it?
Lewis nodded. Functional art forges have been cropping up all over, the vast majority affiliated with Analog Anonymous. They started becoming trendy out west as well, who refer to them as steampunks.
It's yours.
Oh, that's really... Man, you shouldn't have. Thanks.
Look, I'm glad we have a moment alone. There's something I've got to tell you.
Lewis took a seat on the couch.
Clint, something's going to happen in 30 days. And it's going to kind of disrupt modern civilization. And when I say kind of disrupt, I mean to say that modern civilization's going to end.
Well, tell me about it. That so-called president for life and his broligarch fundamentalist pastor Dan are gonna declare martial law on all the Pacific states.
Last week, the governors and state houses of California, Oregon, and Washington declared that the president's bid for a third term was illegal and that they no longer recognized the authority of the federal government. It sent shockwaves globally.
This has nothing to do with this country's identity issues. It's something... In 30 days, there's going to be a series of EMPs. Do you know what an electromagnetic pulse is?
Yeah, I saw a thing on it on TikTok. Something about a high-altitude nuclear airburst. Wait, are you saying you happen to know China or North Korea's?
No, Clint. It's not going to be anything any human does. The EMPs are going to be caused by the shift in the Earth's magnetic poles. It's going to be more powerful than any nuclear warhead, and it'll be global.
How do you know this?
He wanted to say that he could hear the voice of Gaia again, but he knew that wouldn't really help his case.
In the days leading up to the shift, there will be an arroyo that you will be able to see even from here. It'll most likely be explained as solar flares. But I swear to you, Clint, it's coming. The shift, the EMPs, and there's nothing any human can stop. And when it hits, everything you and every other person living in the modern world has come to rely upon will cease to function. It's not just the power to your house. It's all communication, all transportation, the water purification plants, all of it will suddenly and permanently cease.
Clint was stunned into silence before jolting up.
No. This can't happen. You have to be wrong. You can't know this.
Clint, look at me. Look at me. It's going to happen in 30 days. You need to be ready. Best to be north of the city. Get a cabin, somewhere near a water reservoir.
Lewis already bought a cabin located between Charlottesville and Culpeper and made it shift-ready with a methane generator powered by pig excrement, a barter town as they call it. Vivian and her kids were going to just so happen to be visiting on the Memorial Day weekend when it hits.
Withdraw a shit ton of cash. It'll come in handy for the first couple of weeks, but after that, it'll be toilet paper. Which, by the way, you'll want plenty of, along with peanut butter. You cannot have enough peanut butter. And store it somewhere where you can access it and bring your bikes. You'll want to buy plenty of spare tubes as well.
Clint rubbed his temple and shook his head in disbelief.
Look, there's two possibilities, Clint. Either I'm insane, and you bought a bunch of non-perishable goods that'll take a couple of years to consume, and you had a memorable Memorial weekend near some no-account town. Or I'm right. And if I'm right, you know this is your best chance to save you and your family.
I can't do this. I'm not a survivalist.
You can do this because you love Meredith and Olivia, don't you?
Of course I do.
Then you're going to rise to the occasion. I know you will do whatever it takes to keep them safe from what is to come.
I'll be out there all alone.
That's what the radios are for. You use the crank to power it up. Tune it to the frequency I wrote down in the pocket. When you call out, say who you are and that General Henry's says that vicious rabbits never say die.
Lewis put his hand on Clint's shoulder.
I wrote it down in case you forgot. Trust me, you can do this.
Just then the front door opened.
Hey, Dad, look at the dress we got.
Lewis saw something turn over in Clint. It was resolve. He nodded and mouthed the words, "Thank you."
Want to introduce me to your family?
Yeah. Hey, Bug, this here's Lewis.
Hi, I'm not really a bug, of course. My name's Olivia.
Pleased to meet you, Olivia.
She really did resemble Shonda in so many ways. Just then, Meredith walked in.
Hey, hon, someone yoinked the blue recycling bin again. Oh, hi there.
Lewis knew this moment was coming. He did his best to prepare for it, but there really was no preparing for meeting the love of his life. Meredith was as beautiful here as she was in the real world. Her green eyes. He would fall into them and drown if he wasn't careful.
Hi, I'm Lewis.
From the support group. Yes, of course. Clint told me you'd be joining us for dinner. It totally slipped past me. Sorry, it's been a crazy day at the office. The administration started surveilling my staff. Anyway, pleased to meet you, Lewis.
She extended hers and they shook, touching his wife's hand. Lewis struggled to speak.
Oh, sick! A steampunk!
Olivia ran her fingers along the dials of the radio. Clint wrapped an arm around his daughter and plastered on a smile.
Yeah, it's a gift from Lewis.
Meredith's mouth opened in surprise.
Oh my God! This is crazy, but one of my reporters just filed a story on the recent emergence of functional art. The article mentioned how people around the country started making these, and it's really taken off. No rhyme nor reason, but I think I get it. It evokes something.
She walked over to the radio and studied it.
I am not your carpet ride. I am the sky.
Meredith smiled and gave Lewis a look.
You know that song?
Yeah. Audio Slave.
It's been an earworm for over a week now. Sorry if I passed it on to you.
I don't mind at all.
They shared a moment when Clint, sensing the chemistry, broke it up and put his hand on each of their shoulders, guiding them into the kitchen.
You two can help me by chopping up the vegetables. Hope you like vindaloo.
Lewis nodded. He was going to enjoy as much of the spices that he could while they were still available, and spent the evening watching Meredith and Clint being a married couple who overcame the greatest challenge they ever faced, the loss of their elder daughter, and came through the other side. Sitting with his family, he gave a reassuring smile to Clint. He knew they would get through the next challenge.
Get the walking wounded to the bleachers. We can assess their injuries there.
She's in shock.
Lewis awoke to the sounds of tense voices and pain.
This man's got internal bleeding. Prep him for surgery.
Doc, we cleared the showers and prepped the tables. At first he thought he was in a MASH tent in Iraq. The sounds of doctors and nurses barking instructions, the moans of the injured. But he wasn't in a tent. He was in a high school gymnasium. And it wasn't injured Marines. It was the victims of the militia he and his security team had just fought. Lying in a cot, he turned to his right and saw Kendra, his second-in-command, speaking with some of the locals. She wore the blue armband that every member of the security force wore to identify themselves to each other and to the residents of Culpeper. The intel report on the high school was spot on. Using that, along with the blueprint of the high school, Lewis and his team executed a raid that would have been worthy to a force recon company. The members of his team, kids from the National Archery Finals, cleared the rooms like they were true operators, taking out the militia thugs and avoiding hitting the victims. Lewis led the entry like a good commander would, and heard Gaia whispering to him, giving him a bead on every single tweaked-out mope who had their way with the victims inside the school. When he came across the one survivalist in a Confederate cap, his rifle ran dry. It only held 6 rounds, and he found himself in hand-to-hand combat. Lewis remembered his training and took out the hostile, and then grabbed that man's AR-15 and mag pouch. They were almost to the gym when someone jumped into the hallway and shot him straight in the chest with a revolver. He awoke lying in a cot. His chest hurt, like someone hit him with a baseball bat. He had been wearing a Kevlar vest, liberated from the abandoned police station. It saved his life. Lewis stirred by a soft voice singing,
I am not your carpet ride.
At first he thought it was Gaia, but no, it was human. And she was singing that song, of all things. It seemed to follow him wherever he went.
I am not your blowing wind. I am the lightning.
Meredith had been tending to a patient and turned around to see the leader of Monticello's security team singing along.
I am not your autumn moon. I am the night.
That song has been in my head the last several days.
It was playing on the iPod when the EMP struck.
The gunny in his platoon often played I Am the Highway back in the sandbox, and Lewis downloaded it when he returned stateside.
How many casualties on our side?
The attractive redhead came into focus. She had green eyes that seemed to sparkle.
2 with minor injuries and no fatalities. You did good, General.
Lewis rolled his eyes.
The Reverend's got everyone calling me that.
People are coming up with all sorts of new titles and monikers. You heard the townspeople are calling you the Vicious Rabbits.
And that would be Kendra's doing.
Well, all of Culpeper is praising the brave, vicious rabbits who vanquished the evildoers. I even saw a woman patching together a flag. It looks hilarious, by the way. But it's because you saved the day.
I appreciate the accolades and all. But the truth is, we got lucky. I owe whoever provided the intel and blueprints a beer.
I look forward to it. Since it will likely be room temperature, I prefer an IPA.
Lewis eased himself up, resting his elbows on the cot.
You're the source?
Yeah, sort of goes with my day job, back when we had him. I was a journalist with the New York Times.
The doors to the gym opened. Reverend Luevino was lugging in supplies donated from the residents on a push cart, followed by others carrying cases of bottled water.
I should help the good Reverend out with that. It looks like she's an ant carrying an elephant. Again, good work, General.
Actually, how about you call me Lewis?
He extended his hand and they shook. Right then he could hear Gaia almost purr. She gave him a playful smile.
And you can call me Meredith. It happens to be my name.
She stood up and walked over to Reverend Luevino, and just as he hoped, Meredith turned back to glance at him. Kendra knelt down to discuss their after-action report, but Lewis couldn't really hear a word of it as he tried not to stare too long at his future wife.
I am not your rolling. I am the highway.
Mixtape Stories hopes you enjoyed this podcast. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. If you enjoy our work, consider making a donation to mixtapestories.net or at Patreon/mixtapestories, all one word. Thank you.
Most of the background music has been provided by Mixkit and Fesliyan Studios. In this episode, you also heard Brothers in Arms cover by Igor Paspoli and I Am the Highway by Audioslave. The role of Gaia was played by Marjorie Trace Juge and Olivia by Genevieve Juge. The following actors are available on Fiverr. Lewis Henry, played by Stefan Stewart, Robert Claiborne by Johnny Unitas, Kendra by Ebony LaShawn, Meredith by Ellen C., Reverend Luevino by Bree and Aaron, and Clint by Jordan W.